In today's world of market volatility and uncertainty, your retirement plans need to be front and center. With ever-changing tax laws, healthcare worries, and an unpredictable stock market, don't overlook the vulnerability in your retirement planning. Protecting your family and estate will be difficult with shifting policies in Washington. It's more important than ever to keep an eye on retirement.
Hi, and welcome into Eye on Retirement. I'm Rick Everett, along with Matt Goolsby of Market Advisory Group. And talking retirement today, Matt, one of the biggest challenges people face is preparing for retirement tax-wise.
You know, that's a great point. A lot of people will often think of taxes as an afterthought. They'll take money out of their account. They may withhold something, but then when it comes time to do their taxes in February, March, or April, they might be a little shocked that they either under-withheld or over-withheld. And we find that's not uncommon because the majority of Americans actually saved for retirement in accounts that have never had the taxes paid on them. IRAs, 401ks, all those different accounts. And they find that when they're working with a financial advisor, they can't give them tax advice. And that's often frustrating to people because they've gone to that person seeking help for their retirement, and they're paying maybe that person something to help them with their retirement. And that person can't help them with whether the withholdings, what's the impact on their Social Security, what's maybe the impact on their Medicare premiums, because that has to do with what your income is. So we work as a team at Market Advisor Group with our CPAs from Market Tax Services and our estate planning attorney at Gerald Eidelman of Eidelman Law Firm to make sure people are getting that complete retirement plan so that they don't have to worry about the surprises in retirement.
A lot of people think as they're building that retirement portfolio by having their money in a traditional IRA or a Roth, whatever the case may be, that it's growing at a rate that is tax-free at the time.
That's true. When you have investments inside that account, their tax deferral is happening there, and that's just how those instruments work under the IRS code. But the problem is that when you take a withdrawal, that typically with the traditional IRA, it's going to be income taxable, and it can oftentimes have a lot of repercussions on maybe your other income. Some people that live just on their Social Security, they may pay nothing in taxes on that. But if they take a withdrawal, and if they take too much of a withdrawal, it might cause their Social Security to become taxable at either 50% or count as taxable income at 50% or count as 85% taxable income. And that starts to have some repercussions and some of the ripple effects on that.
You know, a lot of advisors, I would guess, try to halfway help their clients by saying, I've got a friend Larry that does taxes. You should go see him.
Yeah, we hear that a lot from people. Well, my financial advisor has someone they can refer me to or a partnership, but the problem is that they're not in the same room. And I told you before the show started, I mean, have you ever played that game telephone where you whisper something in someone's ear and it goes around the circle, and by the time it comes around, the original sentence is nothing like what it originally was going out of the first person that said it. And people will often say that, Matt, I just don't trust myself to relay and get it correct, all those details to whether it be the estate planning attorney or the tax professional, whether it be a CPA, EA, or maybe even they're doing their taxes online themselves. And it's a disconnect that when people are working with a financial advisor that doesn't have that complete team under the same roof, that they can't get that complete advice. And we always say, well, then what are you paying that person for? Because yes, they might be helping you with the income plan. They might be helping you with the tax strategies separately, maybe through a CPA. But if they're not communicating together under one roof, odds are you're probably missing something. And most people don't look forward when it comes time for tax planning. They're always after the fact. Can't you see that? And so then when they're going and maybe they're saying, well, okay, I'm going to take my documents to my tax preparer in February, March, or April. Then they're saying, well, what can I do to reduce my tax liability here? What can I do to maybe reduce how much I owe? Oftentimes, there's very little after the close of the calendar year. And like one of our lead CPAs, Joshua Sikora, will say, the tax genie is very hard to put back in the bottle. So you need to have that advice. You need to be proactive with that and know what it's going to cost you before you take that large withdrawal, before you take and turn on income, before you start taking your Social Security, because if you don't have those answers prior, how can you make a good decision, right?
An ounce of prevention is better than a pound of tax liability in this case. Matt, It's not to say, though, that somebody who has a portfolio established somewhere else couldn't bring that to you to look at for tax advice.
Absolutely, and that's an excellent point. When people are out there working with a financial advisor, oftentimes the status quo is okay to them, and they're not maybe considering the things that they should be considering because maybe they're unaware of them, maybe their financial advisor's unaware of them, maybe they have a tax professional that hasn't really reviewed their investment plan. And so there's all kinds of different pots of money in retirement. We'll talk about this often when we teach our taxes and retirement class, about how pensions can have their own rules around them, specifically federal and state of Kansas. And then Social Security can have its own rules around it. Taxable investments, tax-free investments, tax-deferred investments, all those different types of pots of money have different tax rules on them. And if people are just taking money out of accounts willy-nilly, they don't have any idea. Give you an example. Joshua Sikora and I are one of our CPAs here at Market Tax Services. We met with a gentleman, I'm going to say last month. He had an advisor that had just been taking money out in a capital gains way. So he was paying 15% in capital gains. But when Joshua and I strategized and asked him some questions about what was going on in his portfolio and specifically his tax situation as well, the gentleman had no idea that he was missing out on the 10% and the 12% bracket. He was just paying all taxes at 15%. And that's just one example of many that we can point to here of how working with a complete team is so beneficial to the people we're helping.
And I think a lot of people get lulled into the fact that, well, I didn't owe taxes that much last year. I can't imagine it'll be this much this year. But those tax laws, they can change every year.
They can, and income sometimes fluctuates as well. And it can be something, again, that they don't understand what's happening to them until it's too late, until it's cost them money. We'll often say many times in our office, if something's going to cost you thousands of dollars, either now or in the future, when do you want to know about it? And if you're being honest with yourself, you probably want to know about it before it costs you that money, right?
Matt Goolsby, I'm Rick Everett. We'll be back with more Eye on Retirement right after this.
When people work with Market Advisor Group, they get a feel of sense of family. There's a lot of relationships that are made and going on in this conference room, and we really take a lot of pride in that and a lot of satisfaction in that.
Every client we work with, we make a custom-made plan to fit them and help reach their goals in life. And then another thing that makes us unique is we want to meet quarterly with our clients and have reviews.
Market Advisory Group, we have a process, and the process we take people through is first to understand what they have, understand who they are, and then we put together an income plan for them and show them how they can look forward to retirement and not look, though retirement is going to be a stressful time. It needs to be a stress-free time.
A few unique features of working with Market Advisor Group is holistic in-house financial consultants. We've got an in-house CPA, Joshua, an in-house estate planning attorney, Gerald, an in-house Medicare advisor, Bill. We rely on all of those professionals for, again, additional service within our consultative process, making sure that we've got the advice and the expertise behind the recommendations that we make.
You know, as an advisor, I'm not there to sell them one way or the other. I'm there to educate them, to let them know what their choices are. Then I try to help them make the right choice where they can save money and feel confident in their decision.
Absolutely the best part of my job is getting a stack of paperwork from somebody and they don't know what to do, and then I can turn around and give them back a tax return, but also to be able to explain what they can do next year that will give them a better answer than what they had this year.
When we've got clients that are calling and they need to help out a child or need to help out a grandchild or need to help themselves out and they're in a situation they didn't expect to be in, I really relish the opportunity to help them through that, help them make the educated decisions in somewhat stressful situations, because a lot of folks don't have that type of counsel.
We meet with so many people one-on-one in this office that don't ever end up becoming a customer or doing business with us, and that's okay. But when they leave our office, we know that we've helped them either get some answers to some of the questions they had or get some clarity on maybe their own path.
But one of the things that we hear all the time is, I wish I would have met you guys 10 years ago, because how much further could I be down the road? Well, Johnny Appleseed said, when's the best time to plant a tree? 10 years ago. When's the second best time? Today. And so if we can help people today going forward, that just brings an incredible amount of comfort and excitement for us to come to work every day.
Welcome back into Ion Retirement. I'm Rick Everett along with Matt Goolsby. And Matt, we spent some time talking about taxes and how to help people. We failed to give a phone number, so let's go ahead and throw that out.
If they want to have a review of their portfolio, whether it's tax, estate planning, any of the combination, we'll get our team together and we'd love to have that review with you. So feel free to call our office at 316-252-8707. We've got people standing by to take your call. Or you can go to ionretirement.com and you can actually book a consultation right there on our website and meet with this complete team, a financial advisor, a CPA, and our estate planning attorney, even one of our Medicare advisors if you have questions on that, because Medicare open enrollment is coming up soon. We'd love to have that complimentary consultation with you and discuss some of the things you have as concerns, or maybe even things that you might not be aware of in your retirement plan.
Matt, the Great Recession seems so far away, but yet it's fresh in the minds of those that are at or nearing retirement. And with markets that have been hovering this year around all-time highs, what should retirees be conscious of?
I think you hit on an excellent point there. Last year with the pandemic, how the markets have recovered may have lulled some people into a false sense of security. And people need to be aware that the market volatility is a potential in their retirement, and they need to understand how that impacts them. Oftentimes people are relying on their nest egg to supplement either Social Security and maybe a pension as well. And if they're taking withdrawals out, when they take a withdrawal out when the market's down, their portfolio has to do that much even more to get back to even or to recover from what they took out. But I know most people are relying on that systematic withdrawal every month to supplement their income sources. But if they don't have a plan, then where's the money coming from? And they need a plan, because oftentimes you'll hear in the investment world asset allocation, and that might mean a certain percentage in stocks, a certain percentage in bonds. If they don't have income allocation in different pots of money or different places they can go and take that systematic income, while maybe that other pot is regrowing and over to the side, that's just one of the many ways that we help people with that plan in retirement. And I can't stress to people enough, I think we have some volatile times in the future here, with either our government having issues with passing the funding or a budget bill, or raising the debt ceiling, and then the Delta variant. I'm sure there's a new variant that will come out next year. Our economy is way different than what it was before this pandemic hit. And I find too often people are invested the exact same way they were before this pandemic hit. And I don't know about you, but I think this economy has rapidly changed since the pandemic.
Oh, there's now no doubt. When we look back at the recession of 2008, it took years and years for the economy to recover from that. And we're conditioned as kids almost by our parents, buy low, sell high. But when it's a set monthly date that's happening, it's hard to react.
That is so true. And we hear oftentimes, like you said, buy low, sell high. But sometimes when the emotions come into play, and if there's no plan there, then oftentimes we're selling high and we're buying low. And most people in retirement, they can't afford to make those mistakes, letting their emotions get in the way, and it costs them a lot of money, maybe even detriment to their overall lifestyle in retirement.
Also, could it be that when people are in retirement, they've trusted someone to take care of this for them, so they're perhaps not as in tune with what the market's doing as they could be, or their advisor could be keeping them affront of?
That's true. I mean, when they go out and hire someone to help them with their financial plan, or maybe they have a financial advisor, we find it's not uncommon for that advisor to just kind of let things ride. And we believe that you probably need to there's a right time to be taking some risk, and there's a right time to be taking less risk. And if they're paying that person for a buy and hold strategy, you have to ask yourself, if they're not helping you with tax advice, if they're not helping you with the tax planning, if they're not helping you with the estate planning for when you have something to leave behind to the next generation or your family, what are you really paying for if they're just keeping you in a buy and hold strategy there and letting you take all this volatility that the market can give you and put your retirement plan at risk?
The RMDs, the required minimum distributions that a person has to take out of an inherited account, are there tricks or tools that can be used with those to help save people money?
I'm glad you brought that up. The Secure Act, which was passed at the end of 2019, changed how some inherited retirement accounts work. It used to be under the old rules, if someone that left you the account, they passed away before the end of 2019, you could take that over the rest of your lifetime. It's called a stretch IRA. It is oftentimes a very beneficial tool to use for people to spread out the taxes over their lifetime instead of taking it out all at once and maybe pushing them into a higher tax bracket, 22, 24, 32, 37 even. But now the rules say if you've passed away forward, 2020 going forward, the beneficiary, if it's not your spouse, typically they have 10 years to take those out and pay the taxes on them. Well, again, if you're working with a financial advisor that can't help you tax plan or can't help you figure out what something's going to cost you before it costs you the money, what are you paying them for? Because in that case, that has a tremendous impact. Some of the things we'll do here is help people take some of that money out of those taxable accounts and put it in a tax-free account before they pass away. So then that burden isn't left to the person inheriting it. Give you a case in point. I help a couple down from Wellington. They are in their late 80s, and you'd say maybe they shouldn't do a Roth conversion, but their son is a doctor. So he's in a 32% tax bracket. And if he inherits a couple $100,000 from them when they pass away, he's going to be already from just his income in a 32% tax bracket. He's going to lose almost half of that between federal and state taxes in taxes. So again, it gets back to why are you paying someone to help you with this financial plan if they can't give you tax advice? And we'd love to review your situation and have a conversation with you. If you want, give us a call, 316-252-8707, totally complimentary. We just want to make sure that you get some questions, or answers to some of the questions you have, and make sure that you don't have something in your situation that could cost you money or cost you harm in the future.
We'll be right back with more Eye on Retirement right after this.
How confident are you in your current financial plan? Do you know with certainty how the recent market volatility will affect your future hopes and dreams? How much are you paying in taxes? And how much are you losing to unnecessary high fees? You didn't work to save this money so that you could spend your time worried in retirement. Now is the time to take charge of your finances so you can feel confident about your future. Call in during the next 30 minutes of today's show only to set up an absolutely complimentary, no obligation, full-blown financial review that will result in your own customized written plan. This is a $999 value that we're giving away complimentary to the first 10 people who respond. We'll start with a full-blown analysis of what you already have, by running a report to untangle how much you are currently paying in fees, how you're allocated for risk, and what it's costing to work with your current advisor. Next, we'll identify your goals. Where do you see yourself in the next 5 years? Where do you want to go, and who do you hope to go there with? Is your current financial plan set up to get you there without mishap? Let's design a roadmap to create a financial plan you can follow with confidence. Get the piece that so many people are missing from their retirement. Find out how having a written plan can make a difference to your retirement dreams. Call now to schedule your complimentary, no obligation, full-blown financial review today.
Hi, and welcome back into Eye on Retirement. Matt Goolsby with Market Advisory Group is with me this afternoon. And Matt, in considering how to set up the planning considerations for retirement, what are some of the key things people should look at?
Well, mainly, we always start with Social Security. If you're not taking Social Security yet, we want to have that conversation with you because, quite frankly, Social Security is going to be the foundation of someone's retirement income plan. I find it's not uncommon to hear people say, well, my financial advisor said if I had questions on Social Security, just call Social Security. And I don't know if you've ever called Social Security before. It's almost sometimes you're on hold for 2 hours. I called it several weeks ago. It was a 2-hour hold time. And you'll find some people that can help you there with the Social Security Administration office. And sometimes we have to call them for either different questions, whether it's be widow's benefits or survivor's benefits and that. But just speaking generally on what we see most often on a married couple, you want to walk through the scenarios there. We'll hear someone say, well, I want to take my Social Security early and maybe pay down the house or pay off some debt. So that way we'll have a more enjoyable retirement when it comes time for us actually to quit working. There's all kinds of considerations there to be factored in. Number one, there's something called the forfeiture, and if you're taking Social Security before your full retirement age, which has to do with when you're born, then there's certain income limits that you can't make, or you cause some penalties. But one of the big things we find is with married couples specifically, they need to factor in their longevity. And none of us know when we're going to pass away, but we're living typically longer and longer, historically speaking. And if you take Social Security earlier, it's going to be a reduction. Furthermore, another factor is when one spouse passes away, the higher of the two Social Security benefits or payments stays with the surviving spouse. And I'll find it's too common and somewhat unfortunate where either something's happened to one spouse earlier than they thought, and so then the surviving spouse is now, since that other spouse took it earlier, is left with a lower benefit. And that can be a massive change to someone's income plan.
Man, I would guess just like with tax laws, that Social Security laws change also.
They have originally. Social Security was not meant to be taxable. FDR, that was actually what he called his golden promise. He was of the opinion that you paid taxes already on your Social Security, that you're paying into Social Security, so you shouldn't be double taxed on it. But now that's not the case. In the 80s, I believe Ronald Reagan was president and Tip O'Neill was Speaker of the House. They changed those laws. And as an individual, your Social Security has 3 different tiers. If half of your Social Security and your other income totals over $25,000, then 50% of your Social Security becomes subject to, as counted as income that could be taxable. Then there's a third tier for once half your Social Security and your other income goes over $34,000. Then it becomes 85% counted as taxable income there. And for a married couple, the taxation threshold, again with half your Social Security and your other income sources, is $32,000. And then once you go over that $32,000 up to $44,000, that counts as 50% taxable income. And I'm sure I've lost everyone by this point. And then once you go over that $44,000 as a married couple, 85% of your Social Security counts as taxable income. And what I'll find is teaching Social Security classes out there in the metro area, a lot of people will say, well, I know how to get the most out of Social Security. I wait and file and take it when I'm 70. And that's true. That's typically how you get the highest monthly benefit. But what most people can't follow along with or don't get is how the taxation works. And we find that one day when you have these RMDs, when you turn a certain age, whether that's 70 and a half or 72, depends on when you're born, and then when you take money out of your IRAs, you can cause all kinds of tax havoc there, where maybe you haven't paid taxes on your Social Security, but then when you're forced to take a withdrawal out of those retirement accounts one day, it could cause your Social Security to become taxable.
If you're above that certain threshold.
That's right. And a lot of people won't figure out the numbers before they do it. I mean, we talked about it earlier in an earlier segment. A lot of people don't understand what they're paying in taxes until they file their taxes. And we don't believe that's the right way to go. That's why we work with the tax department in-house here at Market Advisory Group to help people with those scenarios and have a better idea of what they might be paying in taxes before it costs them money. If you and I go to the grocery store, we're looking at things before we put them in our cart to see what we're paying for them. If we go out to eat at a restaurant, we're going to look at the menu, and maybe you don't order the surf and turf every night. Maybe you go with the burger. But what the point I'm trying to get here is most aspects in everything we do in life, we know what we're going to pay before it costs us money. And that's just not the case with taxes. We oftentimes don't have any idea until after the fact, and we believe there's a better way. You need to be working with that in-house tax team.
Now, earlier in the show, you mentioned a free consultation for people that would like to come by Market Advisory Group. Is that something that can be done as well as with the Social Security planning?
Absolutely. We will help you with your Social Security questions. We don't handle Social Security disability. I want to give that disclosure. But if you have questions on when and how to take Social Security, feel free to give us a call at our office, 316-252-8707. And I challenge you that if you're not having this conversation with your financial advisor, you need to be having it with someone, because this can have a big impact, plus or minus, on your way of life and your portfolio.
Now, when it comes to the tax liability involved with Social Security, that's also something that Market Advisory Group can help plan for.
Well, Market Tax Services, but we work with Market as a team here at Market Advisory Group. But yes, so that's like I had mentioned previously in the show, a lot of financial advisors can't give tax advice because they're not tax professionals. And that's something that's really a big hole we find in most people's retirement plan. they're not thinking about the taxes, and it's an afterthought. And that's why we partner with the CPA firm in-house in the same room that can come into the same conference room and have those conversations and realize there might be a better way to take something, or there might be a better way to plan for something there, and then it helps the client in a better way.
Let's talk for a minute about an uncomfortable situation or conversation, and that would be end-of-life expenses for that surviving spouse. Those can kind of blow a hole in the middle of a nest egg.
It really can. I mean, there's several studies out there that show that you'll spend more in the last days of your life on healthcare than you will in your entire lifetime leading up to that moment. And if someone hasn't had that conversation or looked at that risk, then it can cost that surviving spouse dearly. I mean, if you have to spend several $100,000 out of your retirement nest egg just to pay for either long-term care or someone to help, skilled nursing care to help you come into the house, first of all, you don't have as much money as you think you do there because, like we've talked about before, IRAs, 401ks, they haven't had the taxes paid on them. So you almost have to discount that by 30%, sometimes even higher, if you're going to be taking that money out to help pay for care. Then when you look at sometimes what the average length of the stay or maybe required care can be, and it's up to about 3 years. Well, that cost it can be massive. I mean, I just talked with someone the other day, they're paying $9,000 a month for care for their parents. And that can be a massive and an unplanned event that can really change the lifestyle of the surviving spouse.
So again, a consultation in preparation is something that could be of major benefit.
Yeah, and oftentimes people are really unaware of some things they could take advantage of that are really almost no-brainers, and say, well, yeah, if we would have known that, we would have done that. I'll hear from people that might just come in that have had a spouse go through that, or maybe have had a parent go through that. You know, if my parents were aware of that, we could have planned for that, and we could have had something that sounds like it would have been ideal, and no one ever told us about that.
So recapping, what we want to drive home with ION Retirement is there is help out there. If you have questions or concerns, or perhaps are wondering if your investment advisor is doing everything they can to help you in preparation,
they need to give us a call at 316-252-8707 or go to ionretirement.com and they can book a consultation right there on the website.
Very good. I'm Rick Everett. Matt, I've appreciated being able to be with you during this episode of ION Retirement, and I invite you folks to join us again next week.
This broadcast is intended for informational and educational purposes only. The views, statements, and opinions expressed herein are those of the individual speakers and not necessarily those of foundations and its affiliates. The information contained herein does not constitute an offer to sell any securities or represent an express or implied opinion or endorsement of any specific investment opportunity, offering, or issuer. Any discussion of performance or returns is not indicative of future results. Each individual investor's situation is different, and any ideas provided may not be appropriate for your particular circumstances. Foundations only transacts business in the states where it is registered or is exempt from registration requirements. Registration as an investment advisor is confirmed by security regulators and does not mean the advisor must achieve a specific level of skill or ability. Legal services are offered by Eidelman Law Firm. Tax services offered by Market Tax. Foundations Investment Advisors, LLC, an SEC registered investment advisor. This broadcast is copyrighted by Market Media Network. All rights reserved. Brought to you by Market Advisory Group. Invested in you. Call 316-252-8707. That's 316-252-8707. Or visit marketadvisorygroup.com.